Finding the right buyer for your company, the who, what, when, and how. Today we're going to talk through 4 primary considerations when looking to sell a business and how, from a practical perspective, we, on an everyday basis, go through this exercise. So first, the what. And this is, referring back to last week's video relative to narratives, what is it that we're selling, right? And again, we'll put in a screenshot of that video. We want to have a crystallized narrative of what the company is, what it does, what its financial performance is, what its catalysts, growth, special, durable competitive advantage are. We want to know the what. Now that we know the what, we want to know the who. Who is it that we are presenting this opportunity to? And in that situation, we want to think categorically. So largely speaking, acquirers for businesses are split between financial buyers, private equity firms, family offices, financial sponsors, independent sponsors, search funds, things of that nature, and strategic buyers, large companies, public or private, that do the thing and may want to acquire this business for purposes of its fundamentals, access, or capabilities. Now, although this has somewhat historically been a binary, it has evolved much more into a continuum. So there are private equity firms that own companies that are looking for strategic acquisitions. There are strategic companies that are owned by private equity or institutional capital of one variation or another that are looking for acquisitions. And so generally speaking, you can think of it as these 2 broad categories, but drilling into it further, you'll see it can be a bit of a continuum. That being said, in the $1 to $10 million EBITDA spectrum that we are involved with on a day-to-day basis, we want to hit every single category. So generally speaking, that's going to be strategics that are public, strategics that are private equity firms that already own relevant portfolio companies, private equity firms that do not have a platform in the respective category, family offices, independent sponsors, search funds. And that's categorically the who. The where, being the next question, is where do you find these people? And so a good place to start are databases. So 2 primary databases that we utilize every day are Capital IQ and PitchBook. In addition to that is research. And that can just be using the interwebs, right, of who are the companies. If you Google any industry and say who's buying what, who's investing in what, if you look at trade shows, if you look at activity, and if you do enough digging into the progress of any particular industry. Now again, doing further research, utilizing some of the databases we mentioned and some other ones, you'll get even further research. Then you start talking to people and saying, well, who else is involved here? So there's elements of this business that are very, we use some certain other proprietary software that's AI driven. There's very kind of cutting edge solutions to figure out the where to look for prospective acquirers, but at the same time there are some very old-fashioned ways that still work very well. And so that's the interesting thing about our business in particular, is this unique juxtaposition or culmination of the old things that still work with some of the new things that are really kind of pushing the edge. And lastly, the how. And we think of this as a 4-step escalation process in the conversation. So you go and you say the what, we have this opportunity. You say to the who that you have found from the where, right? And so, hi, we have this opportunity, we're presenting it to the strategic, we're presenting it to this financial acquirer, and we want to have the process be that A, we are discussing the opportunity to progress into a more full discussion, and that would be a non-disclosure agreement being signed, access to a preliminary data room. We are then asking for follow-up questions, and so give us some further insights. I remember I bought a watch one time on 47th Street, and I asked the gentleman a handful of questions about it, and he said, if you ask me one more question, I know you're not going to buy this watch. And basically his theory was, if you don't ask enough questions, you're not interested enough, and if you ask too many questions, you're not going to buy something. So there are some corollaries in the business that we see, but there's an adequate amount of interest that shows us that someone is real, among many other considerations in our evaluation of prospective acquirers. With that being said, we want the questions. Next, we want to have a discussion with either ownership or management, in which there's a more granular digging into the different categories of the business. And then lastly, we want offers. And so that's the 4-step escalation of that conversation. To summarize the video for today of finding the right buyer, you want to have the narrative, you want to find the right people, you want to present it to the right people, and you want to escalate those conversations such that you're not stuck in the friend zone of business, right? So that you are knowing if there's going to be a bona fide interest in the business or not. And lastly, if there's a key or secret here, when in a process should all of these things take place, and should communications commence? Right? When should you wait to reach out to these people? Should it be when you have all of the prospects together? Should it be when there's perfect information? The answer to that, of course, is no. As soon as you have adequate information, get the conversations going. Start talking to people, because talking to some people is going to lead paths to other people. It's going to give you more insight into other people. It's going to give you more insight into the ecosystem for a particular industry. And largely, that's going to lead you to the optimal buyer faster and better prepared when you get there. And so that's the thought for today. Hope the week's getting off to a good start. Keep pushing forward. God bless. We'll see everyone next time.